On a stormy night, a lost little girl found herself in a dangerous world. But what happened next will change your view on loyalty and love forever. A stray dog, with no home, became her unexpected hero. Their bond in the face of a storm will melt your heart. Don't miss the emotional moment that will bring tears to your eyes. The storm raged across New York City, with the wind howling like a wounded beast. Rain lashed against the windows of buildings, turning the streets into rivers of misery. Amidst this chaos, a small figure huddled under a narrow awning, barely shielded from the relentless downpour. Rebecca, only 6 years old, trembled with cold and fear. Her soaked hair clung to her pale face, and her tattered dress hung loosely on her fragile frame, offering no warmth. Her stomach twisted in hunger, a sharp reminder of the days she had gone without a proper meal. Desperation forced her to move. Scanning the rain-drenched streets for any sign of hope, she spotted a garbage bin. Rebecca hesitated, her small hands trembling as she approached it. The rain hammered down, soaking her further, but she ignored it. Rifling through the trash, her heart leaped at the sight of a stale bread roll miraculously intact. She stuffed it into her pocket and looked around for a dry corner where she could eat in peace. Across the street, hidden behind a parked car, Max, a stray dog with ragged fur and cautious eyes, observed her every movement. The storm had done little to dampen his survival instincts. Humans had never been kind to Max, and experience taught him to be wary. Yet there was something different about this little girl. Against his instincts, Max crept closer, keeping to the shadows. His nose twitched as he caught the faint scent of bread. Rebecca noticed him before he got too close. Startled, she pressed herself against the wall, clutching the bread tightly. Her wide eyes met Max's, and for a moment, neither moved. The rain drummed between them, a barrier of sound. Yet something about Max's presence eased her fear. He didn't bark or growl. He simply stood there, his head low, his tail gently swaying, his eyes locked on the bread in her small hand. The door slammed shut behind her parents as the security guard escorted them out. Their muffled protests faded into the distance, leaving Rebecca and Max in the now quiet hospital room. The tension that had gripped Rebecca's small frame began to ease, though her grip on Max's fur remained firm. He let out a low whine, nuzzling her hand as if to reassure her. Rebecca wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, taking a shaky breath. The officer stepped closer, his demeanor softening. "Rebecca," he said gently, kneeling to meet her gaze. "I know this has been really hard, but you're very brave. We'll make sure they don't hurt you again." Rebecca nodded, her lips quivering. Max, sensing her continued distress, placed his head on her lap, his warm, steady presence grounding her. Joan, the social worker, entered the room, her expression a mix of relief and determination. "Rebecca, you did the right thing by speaking up. This is the first step to something better." She sat down beside the bed, offering Rebecca a reassuring smile. I don't want to go back," Rebecca whispered, her voice barely audible. "You won't," Joan promised. "We'll find a safe place for you and Max, somewhere you can heal and feel safe." The next day, Rebecca found herself in the back seat of a car, Max sitting beside her. His tail thumped against the seat as he leaned into her, offering silent support. Joan sat in the front, navigating the unfamiliar streets. "Where are we going?" Rebecca asked, her voice small but curious. "To a foster home," Joan replied gently. "It's a family who loves animals. They've got a big yard and they're excited to meet you and Max." Rebecca's heart fluttered with a mix of anxiety and hope. She glanced out the window, watching the city's gray buildings give way to the greenery of suburban streets. The car pulled up to a cozy house with a white picket fence and a wide front yard. A woman and a teenage boy stood on the porch, their smiles warm and inviting. As Rebecca stepped out, Max bounded ahead, his nose twitching as he took in the new scents. "Hello, Rebecca," the woman greeted, her voice kind. "I'm Mrs. Harris, and this is my son, Luke. We're so glad you're here." Luke crouched to Max's level, extending a hand. Max sniffed it cautiously before giving it an approving lick, his tail wagging enthusiastically. Rebecca hesitated, her fingers tightening on the strap of her bag. But Mrs. Harris's genuine smile and Max's relaxed demeanor gave her the courage to take a step forward. Inside, the house was warm and inviting. The walls were adorned with family photos and colorful artwork. Max immediately found a cozy spot by the fireplace, curling up with a contented sigh. Luke showed Rebecca to her room, a space filled with soft pastel colors and a bed adorned with a quilt. A small bookshelf stood in the corner, its shelves lined with books and toys. "I hope you like it," Luke said. "Mom and I set it up just for you." "I hope you like it," Luke said. "Mom and I set it up just for you." Over the next few weeks, Rebecca began to adjust to her new life. Mrs. Harris and Luke were patient and understanding, giving her space to heal. Max, ever her loyal companion, remained by her side, his presence a constant source of comfort. Joan visited regularly, checking in on Rebecca's progress. During one visit, she brought news that made Rebecca's heart soar. Max was officially registered as her therapy dog, ensuring they would never be separated. One crisp spring morning, Rebecca stood in the backyard, tossing a ball for Max. The golden retriever bounded after it, his joyful barks echoing through the air. Mrs. Harris watched from the porch, her heart swelling with pride as she saw the light returning to Rebecca's eyes. "She's smiling more," Luke said, joining his mother. "She's healing," Mrs. Harris replied, "one day at a time." Rebecca turned to them, her smile radiant as she called out, "Come play with us." Luke grabbed another ball, joining her and Max in the yard. Laughter filled the air, a sound that had been absent from Rebecca's life for far too long. For the first time in what felt like forever, Rebecca felt safe. She felt loved. And with Max by her side, she knew she could face anything the future held. As days turned into weeks, Rebecca found herself easing into her new life with the Harris family. Max had claimed a corner of the living room as his own, often lounging by the window where the sunlight streamed in. His calm demeanor and unwavering loyalty gave Rebecca the courage to explore her surroundings. Luke, who was only a few years older than Rebecca, became her first true friend. Though quiet and patient at first, he gradually began to draw her out of her shell. They played board games on rainy afternoons, watched animated movies with bowls of popcorn, and spent hours tossing frisbees in the backyard for Max. One day, while they were painting birdhouses on the porch, Luke shared a memory. "My dad used to love building birdhouses with me," he said, his voice soft. Rebecca looked up surprised. "Where is he now?" Luke hesitated but answered honestly. "He passed away a few years ago. It was just me and Mom for a while. That's why she wanted to foster, to help other kids." Rebecca nodded, her brush pausing mid-stroke. "I'm glad she did." Rebecca began attending a small community school where the teachers were kind and the other students were welcoming. Though she was nervous at first, Max's presence at home gave her the courage to face each day. One afternoon, Mrs. Harris found Rebecca in the kitchen, flipping through a cookbook. "Do you want to try cooking something?" Mrs. Harris asked. Rebecca nodded shyly. "I used to watch cooking shows. I always wanted to try making something, but I never got the chance." Together, they decided on a simple pasta dish. As they worked side by side, laughter filled the kitchen. Rebecca spilled a bit of sauce on Max's nose, and the dog licked it off with an exaggerated sneeze, making them both giggle. "You're a natural," Mrs. Harris said, beaming at Rebecca. For the first time, Rebecca felt a spark of confidence. One evening, as Rebecca sat by the fireplace with Max, Joan arrived for a visit. Her expression was warm, but her tone serious. "Rebecca, I wanted to talk to you about something important," Joan began. Rebecca's heart clenched. "Is something wrong?" "No, not at all," Joan reassured her. "I just wanted to let you know that your parents have started attending counseling sessions. They're working on themselves." Rebecca didn't respond immediately, her gaze fixed on Max. Finally, she whispered, "Does that mean I have to go back?" Joan shook her head. "Not unless you want to. This is your home now. But one day, if you feel ready, you can decide if you want to reconnect." Rebecca nodded, a mix of emotions swirling in her chest. She wasn't ready to think about the future yet, but she was grateful to have a choice. As the seasons changed, Rebecca continued to thrive. She excelled in school, discovered a love for painting, and even joined a local animal shelter as a volunteer. Max became a favorite among the shelter's staff, his calm and loving nature bringing joy to everyone he met. On a sunny summer afternoon, the Harris family held a small party in the backyard to celebrate Rebecca's one-year anniversary with them. Friends from school, neighbors, and even Joan attended. As Rebecca stood by the cake, Max by her side, Mrs. Harris made a toast. "Rebecca, you've brought so much joy to this house. Watching you grow has been the greatest gift. We're so proud of you." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears as she looked around at the smiling faces. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged. Later that night, as she lay in bed with Max curled up beside her, Rebecca whispered, "Thank you for staying with me, Max." The golden retriever lifted his head, his soulful eyes meeting hers. His wagging tail and soft nuzzle seemed to say, "Always." Rebecca smiled, her heart full. She didn't know what the future held, but with Max and her new family by her side, she knew she could face anything. Months passed, and Rebecca's life grew richer with experiences she had once only dreamed of. Yet in the quiet moments, she occasionally thought about her parents. The memories were a mix of love, frustration, and pain, tinged with the hope that the people she once relied on were finding a way to become better versions of themselves. One evening, as Rebecca helped Mrs. Harris prepare dinner, Joan arrived with an unexpected update. "Rebecca," she said gently, "your parents would like to meet you. It's entirely up to you, though. If you're not ready, we can wait." Rebecca's hands froze over the vegetables she was chopping. She felt Max's head nudge against her leg, grounding her. "Where?" Rebecca finally asked, her voice steady but uncertain. "We can arrange it here or at the agency if you'd prefer a neutral place," Joan offered. Rebecca hesitated. "Can Max come?" Joan smiled. "Of course." A week later, Rebecca found herself sitting in the agency's warm and inviting family room, Max resting at her feet. Mrs. Harris sat beside her, offering quiet support. When the door opened, her parents stepped inside. They looked different, less hurried, less frazzled. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, and her father held a bouquet of daisies, her favorite flower. "Hi, sweetheart," her mother said softly, her voice trembling. Rebecca nodded, unsure of what to say. Her father placed the flowers on the table, his hands shaking. "We've missed you so much, Rebecca. We know we've made mistakes, big ones, and we're so sorry." Her mother reached into her bag and pulled out a photo album. "We've been going through counseling, trying to understand where we went wrong. This album has some of our favorite memories of you." Rebecca hesitated before taking it. As she flipped through the pages, she saw pictures of birthday parties, family outings, and quiet moments at home. The images stirred a mix of emotions, nostalgia, sadness, and a flicker of hope. Over the next few months, Rebecca began meeting her parents more regularly, always with Max by her side. They were slow, careful steps, but with each meeting, she felt a small part of her anger and hurt begin to soften. Her parents, too, were changing. They asked questions about her life, listened intently to her answers, and even attended one of her school art exhibitions. At the exhibition, Rebecca presented a painting that had become her most personal work yet. A golden retriever standing on a bridge, connecting two worlds. Mrs. Harris hugged her tightly. "It's beautiful, Rebecca, it's you." One snowy winter evening, Rebecca invited her parents to the Harris home for dinner. It was the first time the two families would meet, and Rebecca was nervous. As they sat around the table sharing stories and laughter, Rebecca realized how far they had all come. Her parents thanked the Harrises for giving Rebecca a safe and loving home, while Mrs. Harris expressed her admiration for the progress they had made as a family. Later, as they exchanged holiday gifts, Rebecca handed her parents a framed copy of her painting. "This is for you," she said softly, "to remind us of what we're building together." Her mother hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Rebecca, for giving us another chance." Rebecca's life wasn't perfect, but it was full of love, laughter, and the kind of resilience that only comes from overcoming hardship. Max remained her constant companion, a symbol of the journey she had taken and the bridges she had built. As she stood in the backyard one crisp spring morning, watching Max chase butterflies, Rebecca smiled. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving, and for the first time in a long time, the future felt wide open, with endless possibilities waiting just beyond the horizon. Max, a lively dog with 3 legs, had always been a symbol of resilience. He was more than just a pet. He was a testament to the strength of survival. Rebecca, a shy, quiet girl who had been in and out of foster homes for most of her life, never expected that such a dog would change everything for her. It was on one of those cold, gray mornings at the shelter that their paths crossed. Rebecca had grown used to the loneliness, the feeling of being forgotten, and the constant uncertainty about what the next day would bring. Max, however, was different. His joyful barks and wagging tail seemed to brighten the room, even though he had suffered so much in his life. Rebecca was drawn to him immediately. His 3 legs didn't seem to slow him down at all. In fact, he was quicker and more playful than many of the other dogs. When she first met Max, there was an instant connection. Despite his injury, Max exuded an energy that Rebecca hadn't felt in years. It was as if he understood what she was going through. He didn't judge her for her past, nor did he hesitate to offer her the unconditional love she so desperately needed. As the days passed, Rebecca began visiting Max at the shelter regularly. She would sit with him for hours, talking to him as though he could understand every word. And in some ways, she believed he did. There was something about the way Max would look at her, his eyes full of empathy, that made her feel safe for the first time in years. One afternoon, just as the sun began to set, casting a soft glow over the shelter, Mrs. Simons, a kind-hearted woman who volunteered at the shelter, approached Rebecca. With a gentle smile, she said, "I think Max has found a friend." Rebecca felt her heart swell at the words. She looked down at Max, who was now lying beside her, his head resting on her lap. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel hope. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. Maybe, just maybe, Max would be the one to change her life. Months passed, and the bond between Rebecca and Max only grew stronger. As soon as Rebecca arrived home after school, Max would greet her at the door, his tail wagging excitedly. He had become her anchor, the one constant in her life. With Max by her side, she no longer felt the heavy weight of loneliness. But it wasn't just Max who had become a part of Rebecca's life. The Simons, her new foster family, had welcomed her with open arms. Mrs. Simons was always there to offer guidance and support, while Mr. Simons had become a quiet but steady presence in her life. It was clear that they cared deeply for Rebecca, and she was starting to care for them in return. Max had not only helped Rebecca find her voice, but had also been the bridge to a family she never thought possible. With Max's encouragement, Rebecca slowly began to trust again, allowing herself to open up to the people around her. She started to smile more, to laugh again, and to dream about a future that was full of possibilities. One chilly evening after a long walk in the park, Rebecca sat on the porch with Max, looking out at the vast horizon. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and purple, and for the first time, Rebecca didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. Max, her loyal companion, had shown her that there was beauty in the world, even after all the heartache she had endured. As Rebecca sat with Max on that quiet evening, Mrs. Simons joined her, her voice warm as she asked, "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Rebecca smiled softly, the words coming easily now. "I'm good. Really good. I never thought I'd have this. A home, a family, Max." Mrs. Simons nodded, her eyes twinkling. "You've made all of this possible, Rebecca. Max is a special dog, but so are you. You've both found each other, and that's what matters." It was in that moment that Rebecca understood. Max wasn't just a dog who had saved her. He was her partner in healing, her constant through every challenge. And now, they were both part of a family that loved them. As the days turned into months, Rebecca continued to flourish in her new life with Max by her side. She became more involved with the Simon family, participating in family outings, helping around the house, and even making new friends at school. It was a life she had never imagined for herself, but it was everything she had ever hoped for. But as Rebecca grew more comfortable, a new thought began to occupy her mind. The children at the shelter still needed someone to give them the love and care they deserved. Rebecca, whose heart had been opened by Max's unshakable loyalty, couldn't ignore the fact that there were others just like her who were still waiting for their chance at a happy life. It was a conversation with Mrs. Simons that brought this new understanding to the forefront. Max didn't just change your life, Rebecca. He's been a blessing for all of us, Mrs. Simons said one evening, her voice filled with pride. And now, it's time for you to think about how you can share that love with others. Rebecca realized that her journey with Max was only the beginning. Together, they would not only build their own future, but help others along the way. With her heart full of love and gratitude, Rebecca knew she had found her place in the world, and with Max by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next.